Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so that we can learn as well. As always, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn on LinkedIn, and that will be in the show notes below. On today's show, I'm happy to have Mamadou Fadiga. Hope I said your name right, Mamadou. But he is the owner of SynthByte.ai, and he's an advisor at EV Capital Group as well, providing training data and also private credit to firms through EV Capital. So, massive welcome to the show. And I want to start off by asking you a question I always love to start off with, which is this: if you were to be able to go back to when you started your first business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do different in the first 12 months?
First 12 months, I'd probably talk to more people. Yeah, because frankly, there's kind of two schools of thought. There's a build it and they will come, and then there is point of sale, right? And I think the second time around, I'd probably go for more of a point of sale approach, right? And that's probably so that and indeed that probably mean talking to more people. Not, rather than just having fielding like inbound from investors and then building, I guess, whatever they wanted, you wanted.
Yeah, yeah. So here's occasionally people will say that just throughout life, people have said that. And here's the question I always love to follow up with on that type of thing. I think theoretically we all know that. It's like I need to talk more people. The more people I speak to, then the bigger the pipeline, the more opportunities we create. Um, People can feel really stuck with that though. It's like, well, where do I go? How do I talk to more people? Where do I find them? So what are some of the key things that you did as you grew your business to be able to start talking to more people?
First off, I kind of put my face out there. I mean, to be honest, people always say it is not a good idea to have a personal business sort of deal. But a good thing that really does help is if you happen to like, have charm, go for it. Another thing I would always do is go to conferences. Also using more automation tools. Probably those are probably the main ways I'd say trying to reach out to more people. And then also reducing what you are selling down to a easy to understand uh tidbit for the audience, Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say to summarize is just get in front of the people where your prospects are and just try to find those whether it is like networking or engagement groups or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Because the thing is that as much as people, kind of disdain those sort of things because they're thinking, oh, that's a waste of time. The reality is what you're doing right now is in all likelihood a bigger waste of time. You just don't know it yet, right? You're just zero
Yeah.
hedged into that. So if you want to hedge that, you're gonna have to by getting other people's perspectives. And then what I said there that I answered before with the whole conferences and automations and those are all different ways to actually meet people to gain their perspective because that's what makes a market. It's like the amalgamation of other people's perspectives, not just yours. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And you said something I love there as well as you might think it's a waste of time, but are you doing right now a waste is that a waste of time instead? And I think that's a great perspective to have on that because oftentimes we think we're actually being productive when we're not. So I love that, man. I love that. I might steal that phrase from you. Um, well, here's another question I love to ask. As you've grown in what you do, and you talked about automations and things like that, but what's the hardest part of scaling without becoming salesy or spammy in what you do?
probably the hardest part is keeping your message consistent because a lot of times, people try to like overfit for like one particular client or person or like type of client. That's kind
Mm,
of led to the rise of these like boutique consulting firms. And like that's totally understandable because, you do have to um tailor yourself to like each client, right? But if you're in a more of a generic commodity business, you're gonna have to tailor your message as well as the way you tailor your other services to your clients because the simple fact is if you're in a commodity sort of business, you know, you're gonna have to be doing a lot of calling. There will be a lot of back and forth and to reduce that sort of noise and get the right signals and make the right signals. And you gotta tailor that message appropriately.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. You mentioned something about networking and getting in front of the right people. What's the one thing that you've changed to help you build relationships, to build your business and make that whole process easier?
Probably the single biggest thing I probably changed was I kind of changed the way like I approached uh how I serve people. Like before it was very I'll build what I want and here's what it is and you know it's like a painting, sort of deal. But now it's like a mixture of that, but also more of like I guess like servant leadership sort of deal where it's like I see the problem, you know, we'll come in, we'll do what we have to do. And because of that, it's a little more tailored to the market. So like I came to that because of like I tried government contracting before. Um, and so because of that, it was more of like, you had to follow a demand of like, whatever was stated, right? And I've also done, businesses where essentially I was selling something that I created myself, right? And it was, they're gonna come to me, and it wasn't I had to come to them. So, but eventually it had to come to an in between point of that, and so that's kind of what
Yeah,
happened. Yeah.
yeah, that's cool, man. I love that. When w- let me kind of frame the question this way, Mamadou. When we're in business, I know we all deal with challenges. We all have frustrations. Oftentimes, it can be a very lonely place. We can feel like we're the only ones going through that. And so, I like to ask what I'll ask in a second, so that we can just kind of normalize that and all realize we all go through stuff. It's all challenges, and if we all realize we're all going through things and learn from each other, it just helps out. So, here's the question. What's the number one challenge that you've faced in your business? It could be in any aspect of the business, but what's the number one challenge you've faced so far? And what's the lesson that you've learned from that?
I think the number one challenge, honestly, and this is like that's a great question, honestly, because I thought a lot about that and kind of recently overcome that in a couple ways. I think the biggest challenge is finding again that point of sale, getting yourself in front of the right people, right? So for me, with training data, that was, you know, I mean, love to say, hate to say it. It was, we're looking for essentially really smart people who are ambitious, who at the same time happen to be developers or non-developers who are in labs or, they're in defense or they're in life sciences or stuff like that. That's a lot of people and not a lot of people at the same time, right? When you consider, I guess, the sort of education required, the people who want to do that and what they're asking for, right? So it's not a whole lot of places you're going to see a large concentration of people like that, right? So to give you an example of that, I lived in a couple towns before and a couple states where there just weren't a lot of people to sell training data to because who the hell is going to need that, right? But then you go to the Bay Area, San Jose, you go to San Francisco. Oh, that's actually really needed for a lot of these companies, right? Same thing with like certain types of like financial instruments. Like, say you're working in M&A, right? Or you're working like in private credit and you're trying to finance acquisitions and stuff, right? You know, there's a lot of mom and pop shops throughout places like Ohio or Texas or, even places like Alberta or even places like, Colorado. I'd love to talk to, or even, you know, I've seen a lot of those types of shops and stuff, right? I've also seen a lot of shops in the Bay. Specific types of like places where I've seen a lot of people that I want to sell to, and that's probably the biggest obstacle I've seen is because you can't sell to everyone. You can't be everything to everyone. And so because of that, I really endeavor to only be in certain places. Like a new spot we discovered is North Carolina, I feel, because of the research triangle. So typically if I see like a nice, really good university around, like like I'm really interested about Vanderbilt being in San Francisco. You know, that's interesting. You know, when I see a school nearby, it's like when you see the bottom of the ocean floor. You see like people are like, oh, how is life occurring on the bottom of the ocean floor? You know, if there's no sunlight, it's really because of like, there's a chemical, synthesis going on instead. And so and so universities are like that because a lot of like the landscape or, this with regards to labs and training data, are outside of companies, are people going to use that? Not necessarily. But with private credit, hey, that's everybody. So, there's two different things. Those are two different groups to sell to, so it's all about how you get in front of people. And that's really the biggest obstacle I've kind of seen. Kind of glad kind of got over that with the training data one too. So
Yeah. Yeah, not, and it's really interesting that the way you've explained that, I've never really heard it explained that way before, but I think that's a really key thing of um, the way that you're finding your ideal target market. Oftentimes it can be location based or where there's certain hubs or interest. And, as you said, maybe in, I think you said Texas and I can't remember the other state, but, where you were before, not great. But then you go to San Francisco and other places and it's like, oh, there's this massive need for what we do all of a sudden. So I think that's really important to understand as well.
yeah, definitely, definitely. People discount the impact that environment can have upon someone. Even if it's only like point 0.2, on the regression, and that point 2 can wipe out the rest of the point 0.8 easy.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Well, looking over the next 2 to 3 years of the business, what would you like to do? What are your goals?
Uh, well, clearly expansion, probably through the Anglosphere for starters. A very similar format. So for training data, we've done that with partners in the Pacific Rim, subcontractors in the U.S., and more clients UK and continental Europe. With private credit, definitely looking to see better sheets. Yeah, we're middle market, we're lower middle market. We're going up. We're both we're expanding both for the down market and up market. I like to say there's a thing of like a white shoe firm. I aim to be a black shoe firm. I mean to kind of serve everyone sort of deal. And so that's I think near and long term goals would probably be we already have a lot of capital partners and we're open to more. We've got a lot of businesses and we have a lot of deal flow, and of course, we're open to more. But beyond that, I think probably would be moving into different types of transactions and supporting city, metro, and other services and other stuff shortly too. So definitely curious in those regards. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love hearing that. Well, Mamadou, for people that are looking to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So for starters, email mfadiga 12 mfadiga12 @gmail.com. That's my email. And if you're looking for training data, it's Mamadou Mamadou at SynthByte SYTHBYTE.ai SynthByte.ai. Regarding EV Capital and private credit, I do have email with them. But there's so many private credit deals and people need help a lot really fast. So I use my personal email because it gets constant pings to my phone and you can reach me anytime as well. So those are two great ways to reach out to me. And we can get in touch and then you can go from there, phone and all that.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone to check out Mamadou on those different locations if you're interested in anything that he's discussed so far. So, Mamadou, thank you so much for being on the show and taking the time out to be here today. I really do appreciate it. Some really great bits of information, wisdom, and just thoughts and experience that you shared today. So, thank you so much for that. And as a reminder for everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn, have a chat. This is Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.